A woman paid a hitman in PPP loan money, and that's just one of the outrageous allegations.
NBC6 reporter Ryan Nelson is in Northwest Miami-Dade with the details tonight.
The warrants revealed a tangled web of allegations, including murder for hire, fraud, and witness tampering. Police say 33-year-old Jasmine Martinez masterminded the murder for hire plot bankrolled by PPP loans that left 24-year-old LeShonte Jones dead.
She was shot in her own parking lot, her 3-year-old daughter sitting beside her. The shooter didn't come for her wallet. He came for her silence. It was a murder for hire, planned and paid for by someone she already knew. And when the gunfire stopped, a little girl sat crying in the back seat, her mother gone, her future changed forever. This wasn't a random act of violence. This was revenge, carried out in broad daylight because a young mother dared to testify for justice. Her name was LeShonte Jones, a 24-year-old TSA officer, a devoted mother, and the kind of woman who refused to back down. She did everything right. She reported the assaults. She went to court. She trusted the system that promised to keep her safe. But the system failed her again and again. The woman who attacked her walked free. And from behind bars, that same woman orchestrated her murder, paying others to do what she could not. Silence LeShonte forever. This wasn't just a personal tragedy. It was a betrayal by the very institutions meant to protect her. In this episode, we'll walk you through every warning the police ignored, every message prosecutors dismissed, and the chilling details of how this murder was planned from a jail cell. We'll show you the chain of negligence that turned a mother's courage into a death sentence, and ask the question no one should ever have to ask. How can you testify for justice when justice can't protect you? You're watching Dark Trace Crime Cases, where we examine not only what happened, but how it was allowed to happen. If you believe accountability should outweigh privilege, tap like so this story reaches more people who need to see it. LeShonte Jones wasn't just another name in a headline. She was the kind of woman people leaned on, quiet, reliable, and full of drive. At just 24, she had already carved out a career at the Transportation Security Administration, working long shifts at Miami International Airport while raising her young daughter, Jada, on her own. Friends described her as independent, someone who didn't wait for others to fix her problems. She juggled motherhood, career ambitions, and night classes. Her co-workers remember her kindness, how she smiled through exhaustion and stayed calm even in chaos. That strength wasn't just for show. It was how she survived. Her world revolved around her daughter. Jada was her purpose, her reason to endure, and the person she vowed to protect no matter the cost. And that promise, the instinct to protect her child, is what led her to confront danger head-on, even when it put her own life at risk. It began with Kentarius Pooh Taylor, a man with a history of violence and deep connections to Miami's criminal circles. At first, he was charming, offering affection and attention when LeShonte needed support the most. But that affection quickly turned to control. He wanted to know where she was, who she spoke to, and how she spent her time. What started as jealousy became intimidation. When she tried to pull away, he followed. In 2020, her name appeared in police reports as the victim of harassment, theft, and assault. She didn't stay silent. She filed reports and identified him in connection with a robbery. That was the moment everything changed. Her courage, in that case, agreeing to testify against him, put a target on her back. Taylor's allies spread the word. She was a snitch. From that point on, the threats were constant. But instead of protection, she got promises, thin, temporary words that meant nothing when she needed real action. The legal system did what it always does. Delayed. Court dates were postponed, suspects were granted bond, and a known threat was released again and again. Each delay gave him time to regroup. Each release gave him access to her world. By early 2022, she was living in fear. She told friends she felt like she was being followed. She changed her routes, avoided routine, and warned people close to her that something was coming. And still, she went to work every morning, scanned passengers, and smiled because she refused to live as a victim.
started in November 2018 when Martinez was arrested for allegedly beating up Jones. Just over a year later, the warrants say Jones was robbed at gunpoint in the courthouse parking lot by two men, including Martinez's ex-boyfriend Kelly Nelson, after testifying against Martinez. About a year later, the warrant says Nelson called Martinez from jail, the warrant quoting Martinez in that conversation as saying that she is ready to go kill this hoe, while referring to Jones, and quote, Jones has to die. The warrant also accuses Martinez of harassing Jones and offering her money not to testify against Nelson, who has children with Martinez. But the warrant says Jones still made her deposition in April, testifying not only against Nelson, but to the alleged witness tampering by Martinez. And
The signs had been there all along. Threats whispered through phone calls, warnings sent through friends, and a sense of fear that never really left her. LeShonte Jones had reported it, over and over, each time hoping someone would finally take her seriously. But each report, each plea for protection, seemed to disappear into paperwork. The danger didn't fade, it grew bolder. In the weeks before her death, Jasmine Martinez's anger had turned into obsession. From her jail cell, she called and complained about LeShonte, telling anyone who would listen that the young mother was ruining her life. It wasn't just talk. On recorded calls, Martinez spoke of wanting Jones gone. Those words, careless, cruel, and deliberate, would later become the blueprint for her murder. Outside those walls, the plan began to take shape. Romeo Robinson, recently released from prison, became her contact on the outside. He found a man willing to pull the trigger, Javon Carter. Both had histories steeped in violence and disregard for life, but this time, the target wasn't another criminal. It was a mother who had done nothing but testify for justice. Money changed hands. Calls were made. Surveillance began. All while LeShonte continued working her TSA shifts, picking up her daughter, and trying to move past the fear that shadowed her every day. She had no idea that the people she'd once faced in court were now coordinating her death with chilling precision. May 3, 2021. It was just another Monday. She clocked out from her shift, tired but proud. Another day of honest work behind her. She stopped by her sister's home to pick up her daughter, the little girl who was her entire world. Together, they drove home toward their apartment complex in the South Miami-Dade area. Somewhere nearby, a man waited. He'd been told where she lived, what she drove, even the time she usually arrived home. When her car turned into the lot, Carter stepped out of the shadows, gun in hand. The first shot shattered the driver's window. Then another. Then another. Neighbors ran outside, confused at first, then horrified as they saw the small figure in the back seat crying, covered in shattered glass. LeShonte didn't stand a chance. By the time police arrived, the shooter was gone, the engine still running, and her daughter trembling in the car seat. The sound of sirens came too late, like every warning before it. Investigators quickly began connecting the dots. The jailhouse calls, the financial transactions, the network of ex-cons and bitter loyalties that had turned one woman's jealousy into a murder for hire. And through it all, the system's silence echoed louder than the gunfire. At first, it looked like another drive-by, but detectives quickly connected the dots. Phone records, jail calls, and cash transactions led them straight back to the man she once testified against. Kentarius Pooh Taylor, already facing robbery charges, had allegedly ordered the hit from jail. The hit was arranged through his girlfriend, Jasmine Martinez, who paid $10,000 to have LeShonte killed. Investigators traced money transfers, text messages, and surveillance video that tied the entire chain together, from the order to the money to the murder. In total, 5 people were charged, including Martinez and Taylor. Prosecutors described it as a murder-for-hire plot born from revenge. Because LeShonte had warned them, she had pressed charges, faced her attackers, and testified despite being threatened. Every step she took toward justice pushed her closer to danger, and no one stopped it. The truth, when laid bare in court, was almost too cruel to process. Martinez had offered money from behind bars to have LeShonte killed, convinced it was the only way to solve her problems. Robinson coordinated it. Carter executed it. And the system, caught between bureaucracy and indifference, allowed it all to unfold right in front of them. It wasn't just a killing. It was a breakdown of trust, of protection, of the very mechanisms designed to defend people like her. When the arrests finally came, they didn't feel like a victory, just confirmation of what her family had feared all along. The people who'd harassed, beaten, and stalked LeShonte were the same ones who ended her life.
Please, y'all say something. Y'all know anything.
It was an emotional cry from a grieving mother.
I'm begging y'all, please. The picture that's surfing of this guy who got out of the car and ran my baby, my grandbaby down to kill her. Somebody has to know who he is.
Her daughter witnessed this heinous crime. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask you for your support. We ask you for your assistance. Whether you've overheard something in a barbershop, beauty salon, your significant other, anything that you've heard, we could use that information.
And the shooting was no accident.
This guy get out of this car and chase my baby and my grandbaby to murder her.
In February 2022, police took Jasmine Martinez, Romeo Robinson, and Javon Carter into custody. The evidence was overwhelming. Phone records, jail calls, money transfers, and witness statements linking every piece together like a dark puzzle. In the recordings, Martinez's voice was calm, almost casual, as she arranged the murder. It wasn't rage anymore, it was strategy. The courtroom was quiet when those calls were played. Every word was a reminder of how far the system had let things slide before anyone acted. Her mother, Darlene Dukes, sat through each hearing, her face a mixture of pain and disbelief. She had warned them too. She had begged for protection for her daughter. But the help never came, not when the assaults happened, not when the threats grew louder, and not when the plot was forming in plain sight. Justice, when it finally arrived, felt hollow. No sentence could replace a daughter, a mother, a protector. But her case forced the community and the state to face a brutal truth. The system designed to protect witnesses had failed again. And LeShonte's story is far from isolated. Across the country, witnesses who dare to testify still walk home in fear, knowing that restraining orders and court dates often do little to stop a determined killer. So what can change? It starts with protection that's more than paperwork. Victims like LeShonte need immediate relocation options, safe housing, and consistent monitoring of offenders, especially repeat ones. It requires prosecutors and police to treat every threat as credible, every call as urgent, and every prior assault as a red flag, not a coincidence. And it demands that communities listen, really listen, when someone says they're afraid. Because LeShonte did everything she was supposed to do. She worked hard. She testified. She trusted the system. And still, the system looked away. Her name now stands as a warning and a call for reform. A reminder that courage should never cost a life, and that justice means nothing if it only arrives after death. LeShonte Jones' story isn't just about loss. It's about proof. Proof that courage without protection is a death sentence. Proof that justice delayed is justice denied. And proof that real change starts when we refuse to stay silent. She did her part. Now it's on us. This is Dark Trace Crime Stories, where we speak the names the system failed to protect. If her story moved you, share it. Subscribe. Let her memory remind the world that silence never saved anyone.